Hello, boys and girls. Mr. Walk here. I'm just excited to have the opportunity to speak to you and read to you. I want to thank Ms. Piccolini for putting together such a wonderful reading opportunity for our children. We miss you. We know that this has not been an easy time, and it's been difficult for us to connect. So this is an opportunity for us to connect with you through reading. So what better opportunity than that? Boys and girls, with that said, I hope you're doing well. I hope your families are staying safe, and we're eagerly awaiting your return. So, I'm going to read a book to you that I read at our Read Aloud night, but not everybody gets the opportunity to see it or to hear it, it's one of my favorite. I think it's a very good message, and it reminds all of us that sometimes we're nervous, but we're nervous for all the wrong reasons, and sometimes we get ourselves a little bit worked up, which is normal right now. But sometimes we worry when we really don't need to. And we build things up in our mind when in reality things aren't what they seem. So with that said, I'd like to read to you The Principal from the Black Lagoon. It's the third day of school, and I've been sent to the principal's office. What a bummer. I hear the principal, Mrs. Green, is a real monster. Kids go to her office, and they never come back. The waiting room is supposed to be filled with bones and skeletons. Doris Foodle was sent for chewing gum, and they say her skeleton still has a bubble in its mouth. I walk in, I take a seat, and the rug is red. Oh, that's so the blood won't show. I hear she uses tall kids as coat racks. She uses the shorter kids to feed to her pet alligator, and the bigger ones she uses as paperweights. The thinner ones she uses as bookmarks. I'm too young to be a bookmark. Then there's her 12-foot paddle. It's supposed to have poison spikes on it. If you're lucky, you get put in the cages. Well, she has them under her desk. But if you're really lucky, you get sent home in chains. But most kids she keeps for her experiments. Derek Bloom was sent here yesterday, and they say he wound up with the head of a dog. Well, they say Freddie Jones has the feet of a chicken, and Eric Porter the hands of a hamster. Well, I'm too good looking to have ears of a rabbit. All I did was snatch Mrs. Jones' wig. It's very quiet today. Usually they say there's a lot of screaming. Well, maybe she's in a good mood. Even if I survive this will affect my whole life. In the future, I'll be running for president. I'll be ahead in the polls, and then it will come out. I can see the headlines now. Presidential candidate sent to principal's office. Uh-oh, there's a shadow at the glass. Now I am in the jaws of fate. The door slowly opens. Well, there's a pretty woman standing there, and she's the master of disguise. Come in, Yubi. I go in, and she closes the door behind me. I look around. There's only the coat rack. It doesn't look like anyone I know. I look around for the alligator, but there's only a turtle. It does look a little bit like Randy Potts. Now, says Mrs. Green, are we having a little trouble in class? Well, says I was sweeping up the room, and by accident, Mrs. Jones' wig did get caught in the broom handle. Well, we'll have to apologize, won't we? Yes, we will. And the next time, we'll have to be more careful. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Now run along. Is that all? Close the door. Boy, was I lucky. Those flowers on our desk were probably poisonous. Just one whiff and you would turn purple. Fortunately, I did hold my breath. I went into her cave and I returned without the ears of a rabbit. I have to sweep her office sometime, and she wears a wig. So, boys and girls, things aren't always what they appear. And right now, there's a lot on your plate. We're thinking about you, we miss you, and we hope that something like this gives you an opportunity to reconnect with me as the principal and all of the other staff members who are taking time out of their day to send you a little message through literature. Stay safe, stay warm. We love you and we miss you, and we look forward to your return.
Hi, everybody. I'm Miss Maloney, and I am here to share with you one of my favorite picture book series. This is one book from that series called Scaredy Squirrel, and this in particular book is called Scaredy Squirrel Makes a Friend. I hope you enjoy. This book is written by Maloney Watt. It's also illustrated by Maloney Watt. It's that lovable little worrywart is back, and he's as scaredy as ever. In his latest adventure, he sets out to make the perfect friend. Scaredy Squirrel insists that everyone brush their teeth with germ-fighting toothpaste before reading this book. So I hope you've all done that. If not, hit pause and go do it. Dedicated for my dentist Rosie and for Manuel. Special thanks to Valerie, my friend and publisher, for 7 inspiring years. And here we go. Scaredy Squirrel makes a friend. Scaredy Squirrel doesn't have a friend. He'd rather be alone than risk encountering someone dangerous. A squirrel could get bitten. A few individuals Scaredy Squirrel is afraid to be bit by: beavers, walruses, bunnies, piranhas, Godzilla. So Scaredy Squirrel finds interesting ways to pass the time all by himself. He reads, he whistles, he knits, he chats, he crafts, he yawns, he counts, until one day he spots someone perfectly safe: the goldfish. The perfect friend, according to Scaredy Squirrel. Bubbly personality, squeaky clean, germ-free, no teeth, quiet. Doesn't do much, but is 100% safe. A few items Scaredy Squirrel needs to make the perfect friend: lemon, name tag, mittens, comb, mirror, air freshener, toothbrush, chew toy. How to make the perfect first impression: tame bad hair, brush teeth thoroughly and practice smile, check for nutty breath and food caught between teeth. Wear mittens to hide sweaty paws. Use pine scent to smell delightful. Make sure name tag is visible. Prepare freshly squeezed lemonade. Follow the perfect plan. The perfect plan. Step 1. Toss down chew toy to distract biters. Use mirror to check hair and teeth. Step 3. Run to fountain. Step 4. Point to name tag and smile. Step 5. Offer lemonade. Step 6. Make the perfect friend. And then some hints, some helpful hints are: don't talk to suspicious bunnies. Stay away from piranha-infested ponds. Beware of walruses, they're fast on their flippers. Avoid beaters, they could snap at any moment. Watch out for Godzilla, for obvious reasons. And if you take a look over here, here's our map legend. Those are always good to read a map. But let's say, just for example, that Scaredy Squirrel did come face to face with a potential biter. He knows exactly what not to do. Do not show fear. Do not show your fingers. Do not make eye contact. Do not make any loud noises. If all else fails, play dead. And hand over the test. Scaredy's risk test. Who are you? Check off a box. How many teeth do you have? Let's hope not 1,000. What's your hobby? Biting or other? What do you see? Friend, something to bite. With every detail under control, Scaredy Squirrel puts the plan into action. First, he tosses the chew toy. Then he heads down the tree. Everything is perfect until he hears a strange sound coming from behind. Squeak! And he realizes, and if you look here in the mirror, it says objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. What do you think it is? It's a dog! This was not part of the plan. The dog chases Scaredy around the bush, around the fountain, and around in circles until Scaredy Squirrel plays dead. 30 minutes later, still playing dead. 1 hour later, playing dead. 2 hours later, playing dead. After all this time, Scaredy Squirrel realizes that the dog doesn't want to bite him. He just wants a friend. Scaredy Squirrel points to his name tag and smiles. Then he starts chasing his new buddy. They play fetch, they play hide and seek, and they play dead. Scaredy Squirrel forgets all about the goldfish, not to mention the walruses, bunnies, beavers, piranhas, and Godzilla. Time flies when you're having fun. All this excitement inspires Scaredy Squirrel to make a few minor changes to his idea of a friend. My almost perfect friend, according to Scaredy Squirrel. Wet doggy smell, tooth, germs, drool, loud bark, muddy paws. 83% safe, but lots of fun. P.S. As for the wet doggy smell, it's been taken care of. And you can see here that Scaredy Squirrel gave his pine scent air freshener to his new friend, Buddy. Well, I hope you liked this book. If you did, there are several more different versions of Scaredy Squirrel or different copies of Scaredy Squirrel. You can get many of these in our school library. You can also, I read this on Epic, which is available to you on your Clever. You can go into Epic and read some of these books. So I hope you enjoyed it and have a great day.
Hi, boys and girls. My name is Mrs. T. I teach second grade, and today I'm going to be reading How the Crayons Saved the Rainbow. The sun and the clouds were best friends. They worked together to keep the earth warm and gardens growing. But of all the things they did together, their very favorite was making rainbows so that the whole world was colorful and happy. Then one day, the sun and the clouds had a big fight. The clouds were blocking the sun, and the sun couldn't shine through to the earth. The sun went sizzle, sizzle, sizzle at the clouds, and the clouds went clap, bang, boom back. They stopped being friends and were never in the sky together again. With the sun and the clouds far apart, it was scorching hot on some days and damp and cold on others. And worst of all, there were no more rainbows. Without rainbows, the flowers, streams, and even cities started to lose their color. Soon the earth was black and white. But in one little town, in one little school, in one little desk, there was one little forgotten box of crayons. And the crayons still had their colors. The desk rattled, shook, clambered, and clanked. All of a sudden, it toppled over, and the box of crayons tumbled out. Ah! I'm naked! Yippee! Get off me! I'm out of here! Woe is me! Hey, where are all the colors? The crayons started to search for the colors. They raided marker bins and tore through art projects, but everything as far as they could see was only black and white. Who made all the colors go away? This is so sad. This is terrible. What about daffodils and butter? If oranges aren't orange, do I even exist? The crayons looked out the window. The sun was all the way to one side of the sky looking angry, and the clouds were all the way to the other looking gloomy. I miss all the colors. We can't even draw rainbows together now. Wait, that's it. We need to save the rainbows. So the crayons started drawing little rainbows all over town, but nothing happened. The sun and the clouds didn't seem to notice. We have to make our rainbows bigger, Violet said. Working together, the crayons drew and scribbled. They made the biggest, brightest, and most colorful rainbow the world had ever seen. Ever so slowly, the sun perked up, and the clouds floated in for a closer look. The sun and the clouds both peered down, admiring the giant rainbow that the crayons had drawn. What bright color, said the sun. It's incredible, said the clouds. They looked at each other with great big smiles. The sun said to the clouds, remember when we used to be together all the time and make rainbows? The clouds nodded. I'm sorry for going clap, bang, boom at you. I'm sorry for going sizzle, sizzle, sizzle at you, said the sun. It's better being friends, said the sun, and the clouds agreed. They hugged. The sun shined brightly, and the clouds misted happy rain. Ever so slowly, rainbows reappeared near and far, turning the world colorful once again. The end.
I decided to read this book, The Invisible Boy by Trudy Ludwig. It's a great story about how much difference just one person can make in somebody's life. Pay close attention to the illustrations because you'll see as the boy in the story that seems invisible, as he starts to get more friendship, his illustration changes a little bit. Okay, have fun. The Invisible Boy by Trudy Ludwig. Illustrated by Patrice Barton. Can you see Brian, the invisible boy? Even Mrs. Carlotti has trouble noticing him in her classroom. She's too busy dealing with Nathan and Sophie. Nathan has problems with what Mrs. Carlotti calls volume control. He uses his outside voice inside too much. Sophie whines and complains when she doesn't get her way. Nathan and Sophie take up a lot of space. Brian doesn't. When the bell rings for recess, Micah and JT take turns choosing kids for their kickball teams. The best players get picked first, then the best friends of the best players, then the friends of the best friends. Only Brian is left, still waiting and hoping. JT glances in Brian's direction and, just as quickly, looks away. We've got enough players for each team, he tells the others. Let's play ball. In the cafeteria, Madison and all her friends talk about her birthday party. The rope swing over the pool was awesome, says JT. Yeah, so was the water slide, adds Fiona. That was the best pool party ever. I'm so glad you guys had fun, says Madison. Everybody except Brian. He wasn't invited. At choosing time, while the other kids play board games and read, Brian sits at his table, doing what he loves to do best. He draws fire-breathing dragons scaling tall buildings, space aliens locked in intergalactic battles, greedy pirates digging for treasure, and superheroes with the power to make friends wherever they go. On Monday morning, Mrs. Carlotti introduces Justin, a new student to the class. Brian smiles shyly at him. Some of the other kids sneak looks at Justin, trying to figure out if he's cool enough to be their friend. They haven't quite made up their minds yet. At lunch, Madison and JT watch Justin eat with chopsticks. "What's that?" asks Madison as she points at Justin's food. "It's bulgogi." What?" "Bulgogi. It's Korean barbecued beef my grandma made it for me. It's really good. Do you want to try some?" "There's no way I'd eat boogerji." And the kids laugh. All of them. That is, except Brian. He sits there wondering, which is worse, being laughed at or feeling invisible? The next day, when Justin goes to his cubby to put away his backpack, he notices a piece of paper with his name on it. "Justin, I thought the bulgogi looked good. Brian, yum." At morning recess, Brian finds a piece of chalk on the ground and starts drawing away. "You're Brian, right?" "Yeah. Thanks for the note." "Hey, Justin," Emilio calls out from the tetherball court. "You're up next." "Sorry, I gotta go," says Justin. "By the way, that's a really cool drawing," he adds, before taking off. Back in class, Mrs. Carlotti asked the kids to team up in twos or threes for a special project. The kids scurry around the room to pair off. Brian heads toward Justin. "I'm already with Justin," says Emilio. "Find someone else." Brian looks at the floor, wishing he could draw a hole right there to swallow him up. "Mrs. Carlotti said we can have up to 3 people in our group. We're only 2. Come on, Emilio, let him work with us." "Okay, I guess." Mrs. Carlotti gives the class directions for the project. "Your assignment is to work together to write a story about what you see in this photograph. Use your imagination and have fun." "Ooh, cool," says Emilio. "What kind of people do you think would live in houses like that?" "I don't know, but I bet Brian could draw them to go with our story," says Justin. Brian smiles as he takes out his lucky pen. There aren't any words on this page, but look at all the fun the 3 boys are having doing this class project. It's lunchtime again, Brian's least favorite part of the day. Another 20 long minutes of kids talking and laughing with everyone else but him. "Brian!" he hears someone shout. "Hey, Brian, over here!" Brian turns and sees Justin waving him over. Emilio nods at Brian as he makes room for him at the table. "Cookie? Thanks." Maybe, just maybe, Brian's not so invisible after all. See, I like this story because it only took one person to make Brian feel less invisible. And I know here at Intervale School, we do this all the time, right? We always invite friends to play with us, and we definitely look for each other's talents. So we don't ever want to have any invisible kids here at Intervale School. All right, thanks for reading.
Hi everybody, it's Miss Veronio, and today I'm going to read for you one of my very favorite stories called There Was an Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly by Lucille Calandro, illustrated by Jared Lee. There was an old lady who swallowed a fly. I don't know why she swallowed that fly. She won't say why. There was an old lady who swallowed a spider that wriggled and jiggled and tickled inside her. She swallowed the spider to catch the fly. I don't know why she swallowed that fly. She won't say why. There was an old lady who swallowed a bird. How absurd to swallow a bird. She swallowed the bird to catch the spider. She swallowed the spider to catch the fly. I don't know why she swallowed that fly. She won't say why. There was an old lady who swallowed a cat. Imagine that. She swallowed a cat. She swallowed the cat to catch the bird. She swallowed the bird to catch the spider. She swallowed the spider to catch the fly. I don't know why she swallowed that fly. She won't say why. There was an old lady who swallowed a dog. What a hog to swallow a dog. She swallowed the dog to catch the cat. She swallowed the cat to catch the bird. She swallowed the bird to catch the spider. She swallowed the spider to catch the fly. I don't know why she swallowed that fly. She won't say why. There was an old lady who swallowed a goat. She opened her throat and swallowed a goat. She swallowed the goat to catch the dog. She swallowed the dog to catch the cat. She swallowed the cat to catch the bird. She swallowed the bird to catch the spider. She swallowed the spider to catch the fly. I don't know why she swallowed that fly. She won't say why. There was an old lady who swallowed a cow. I don't know how she swallowed that cow. But swallowing the animals is not how this ends, because she coughed so hard, out flew all her new friends. And there they are. I hope everyone enjoyed this silly story, and I hope you're having fun reading books at home. Thanks, everybody.
Hello, everybody. It is a snow day. Hello, everybody. I'm at home in about a foot of snow, and I tried to think of what I can do to share with you. So I thought of my students' favorite book, although I'm not going to sing. And the book is buried in my car, which has about a foot of snow on it. So I'm going to share it with you on the video. Pete the cat. I love my white shoes. Story by Eric Litwin and art by James Dean. Pete the cat was walking down the street in his brand new white shoes. Pete loved his white shoes so much, he sang this song.
I love my white shoes. 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 I love my white shoes.
Oh no, Pete stepped in a large pile of strawberries. What color did it turn his shoes? Red. Did Pete cry? Goodness, no. He just kept walking along and singing his song.
I love my red shoes. 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 I love my red.
Oh no. Pete stepped in a large pile of blueberries. What color did it turn his shoes? Blue. Did Pete cry? Goodness, no. He just kept walking along and singing his song.
I love my blue shoes. I love my blue shoes.
no. Pete stepped in a large puddle of mud. What color did it turn his shoes? Brown. Did Pete cry? Goodness, no. He kept walking along and singing his song.
I love my brown shoes. 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 I love my brown.
Oh no. Look, all the brown, all the blue, and all the red were washed away. What color were his shoes again? White. But now they were wet. Did Pete cry? Goodness, no. He just kept walking along and singing his song.
I love my wet shoes. 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 I love my wet shoes.
The moral of Pete's story is, no matter what you step in, keep walking along and singing your song, because it's all good. Enjoy the snow, everybody, because I am. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Miss D, and I will be reading The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. In the light of the moon, a little egg lay on a leaf. One Sunday morning, the warm sun came up and pop! Out of the egg came a tiny and very hungry caterpillar. He started to look for some food. On Monday, he ate through one apple, but he was still hungry. On Tuesday, he ate through 2 pears, but he was still hungry. On Wednesday, he ate through 3 plums, but he was still hungry. On Thursday, he ate through 4 strawberries, but he was still hungry. On Friday, he ate through 5 oranges, but he was still hungry. On Saturday, he ate through 1 piece of cake, 1 ice cream cone, 1 pickle, 1 slice of Swiss cheese, 1 slice of salami, 1 lollipop, 1 piece of cherry pie, 1 sausage, 1 cupcake, and 1 slice of watermelon. That night, he had a stomachache. The next day was Sunday. Again, the caterpillar ate through 1 nice green leaf, and after that, he felt much better. Now he wasn't hungry anymore, and he wasn't a little caterpillar anymore. He was a big, fat caterpillar. He built a small house called a cocoon around himself. He stayed inside for more than 2 weeks. Then he nibbled a hole in the cocoon and pushed his way out, and he was a beautiful butterfly. The end.
Hi, this is Mrs. Cave. I would love to read you a couple of chapters from one of my favorite books called Sideways Stories from Wayside School by Louis Sachar, and the illustrations are by Julie Brinklow. This is one of the silliest books I have ever read, and I love humorous books, so I hope you will too. Introduction. This book contains 30 stories about the children and teachers at Wayside School. But before we get to them, there is something you ought to know so that you don't get confused. Wayside School was accidentally built sideways. It was supposed to be only 1 story high with 30 classrooms all in a row. Instead, it is 30 stories high with 1 classroom on each story. The builder said he was very sorry. The children at Wayside like having a sideways school. They have an extra large playground. The children and teachers described in this book all go to the class on the top floor. So there are 30 stories from the 30th story of Wayside School. It has been said that these stories are strange and silly. That is probably true. However, when I told stories about you to the children at Wayside, they thought you were strange and silly. That is probably also true. Chapter 1, Mrs. Gorf. Mrs. Gorf had a long tongue and pointed ears. She was the meanest teacher in Wayside School. She taught the class on the 30th story. If you children are bad, she warned, or if you answer a problem wrong, I'll wiggle my ears, stick out my tongue, and turn you into apples. Mrs. Gorf didn't like children, but she loved apples. Joe couldn't add. He couldn't even count. But he knew that if he answered a problem wrong, he would be turned into an apple. So he copied from John. He didn't like to cheat, but Mrs. Gorf had never taught him how to add. One day, Mrs. Gorf caught Joe copying John's paper. She wiggled her ears, first her right one, then her left, stuck out her tongue, and turned Joe into an apple. Then she turned John into an apple for letting Joe cheat. "Hey, that isn't fair," said Todd. "John was only trying to help a friend." Mrs. Gorf wiggled her ears, first the right one, then her left, stuck out her tongue, and turned Todd into an apple. "Does anybody else have an opinion?" she asked. Nobody said a word. Mrs. Gorf laughed and placed the 3 apples on her desk. Stephen started to cry. He couldn't help it. He was scared. "I do not allow crying in my classroom," Mrs. Gorf said. She wiggled her ears, first her right one, then her left, stuck out her tongue, and turned Stephen into an apple. For the rest of the day, the children were absolutely quiet, and when they went home, they were too scared even to talk to their parents. But Joe, John, Todd, and Stephen couldn't go home. Mrs. Gorf just left them on her desk. They were able to talk to each other, but they didn't have much to say. Their parents were very worried. They didn't know where their children were. Nobody seemed to know. The next day, Kathy was late for school. As soon as she walked in, Mrs. Gorf turned her into an apple. Paul sneezed during class. He was turned into an apple. Nancy said, "God bless you," when Paul sneezed. Mrs. Gorf wiggled her ears. First her right one, then her left, stuck out her tongue, and turned Nancy into an apple. Terence fell out of his chair. He was turned into an apple. Maurizia tried to run away. She was halfway to the door as Mrs. Gorf's right ear began to wiggle. When she reached the door, Mrs. Gorf's left ear wiggled. Maurizia opened the door and had one foot outside when Mrs. Gorf stuck out her tongue. Maurizia became an apple. Mrs. Gorf picked up the apple from the floor and put it on her desk with the others. Then a funny thing happened. Mrs. Gorf turned around and fell over a piece of chalk. The 3 Erics laughed. They were turned into apples. Mrs. Gorf had a dozen apples on her desk. Joe, John, Todd, Stephen, Kathy, Paul, Nancy, Terence, Maurizia, and the 3 Erics, Eric Fry, Eric Bacon, and Eric Ovens. Louis, the yard teacher, walked into the classroom. He had missed the children at recess. He had heard that Mrs. Gorf was a mean teacher, so he came up to investigate. He saw 12 apples on Mrs. Gorf's desk. I must be wrong, he thought. She must be a good teacher if so many children bring her apples. And he walked back down to the playground. The next day, a dozen more children were turned into apples. Louis, the yard teacher, came back into the room. He saw 24 apples on Mrs. Gorf's desk. There were only 3 children left in the class. She must be the best teacher in the world, he thought. By the end of the week, all of the children were apples. Mrs. Gorf was very happy. Now I can go home, she said. I don't have to teach any more. I won't have to walk up 30 flights of stairs ever again. You're not going anywhere, shouted Todd, and he jumped off the desk and bopped Mrs. Gorf on the nose. The rest of the apples followed. Mrs. Gorf fell on the floor. The apples jumped all over her. Stop, she shouted, or I'll turn you into apple sauce. But the apples didn't stop, and Mrs. Gorf could do nothing about it. Turn us back into children, Todd demanded. Mrs. Gorf had no choice. She stuck out her tongue, wiggled her ears. This time, her left one first, then her right, and turned the apples back into children. All right, said Maurizia. Let's go get Louis. He'll know what to do. No, screamed Mrs. Gorf. I'll turn you back into apples. She wiggled her ears. First her right one, then her left, and stuck out her tongue. But Jenny held up a mirror, and Mrs. Gorf turned herself into an apple. The children didn't know what to do. They didn't have a teacher. Even though Mrs. Gorf was mean, they didn't think it was right to leave her as an apple. But none of them knew how to wiggle their ears. Louis, the yard teacher, walked in. Hey, where's Mrs. Gorf? He asked. Nobody said a word. Boy, I'm hungry, said Louis. And I don't think Mrs. Gorf would mind if I ate this apple. After all, she always has so many. He picked up the apple, which was really Mrs. Gorf, shined it up on his shirt, and ate it. Well, that's just the beginning of this oh-so-silly story. All the stories from Sideways Stories from Wayside School. I hope you think about taking this book out of the library to find out about all of the kids in Mrs. Gorf's room. Myron, actually my favorite chapter is the 19th chapter, and I'll show you why. For those of you that don't like long chapters, there's chapter 19. Mrs. Zarvez. There is no Mrs. Zarvez. Therefore, there is no 19th story. Sorry. That's the end of the chapter. It's a great book. I hope you consider taking out Sideways Stories from Wayside School from our library. Thanks for listening.
I'm going to read a story called Pig's New House by Judy Giglio. Pig did not like his old pen. He wanted a new house. Pig found a nice spot by the pond. It was right for a new house. Pig saw sheep. I am building a new house, said Pig. Do you want to help? Yes, said Sheep. I will cut the wood. Thank you, said Pig. Pig saw horse. Pig said, I am building a new house. Can you help me? Yes, I can, said Horse. I could build the walls. Thank you, said Pig. Pig saw Duck. I am building a new house, said Pig. Can you help me? I can help you, said Duck. I can build the roof. Thank you, said Pig. Pig saw Rabbit. I like your new house, said Rabbit. I want to paint the house, Pig said. I can help you, said Rabbit. I can paint the house. Thank you, said Pig. All the animals liked Pig's new house. The wood looks nice, said Sheep. The walls look nice, said Horse. The roof looks nice, said Duck. Rabbit said, the paint looks nice too. I built a nice new house, said Pig. We built a nice new house, said Sheep. We did all the work. Yes, you did, said Pig. So this nice new house is for all of us. Come in. And they all did. The end.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Beck, the school social worker, and I'm going to be reading you a poem by Shel Silverstein called The Homework Machine. The homework machine, oh the homework machine, most perfect contraption that's ever been seen. Just put in your homework, then drop in a dime, snap on the switch, and in 10 seconds time, your homework comes out quick and clean as can be. Here it is. 9 plus 4, and the answer is 3? 3? Oh me. I guess it's not as perfect as I thought it would be.
Hey Intervale, Mrs. Gomez here, reading the story of Rosie, Revere, Engineer. This is the story of Rosie Revere, who dreamed of becoming a great engineer. In Lila Greer's classroom at Blue River Creek, young Rosie sat shyly, not daring to speak. But when no one saw her, she peeked in the trash for treasures to add to her engineer's stash. And late, late at night, Rosie rolled up her sleeves and built in her hideaway under the eaves. Alone in her attic, the moon high above, dear Rosie made gadgets and gizmos she loved. And when she grew sleepy, she hid her machines far under the bed where they'd never be seen. When Rosie was young, she had not been so shy. She worked with her hair swooping over one eye and made fine inventions for uncles and aunts, a hot dog dispenser and helium pants. The uncle she loved most was Zookeeper Fred. She made him a hat to keep snakes off his head. From parts of a fan and some cheddar cheese spray, which everyone knows keeps the pythons away. And when it was finished, young Rosie was proud. But Fred slapped his knee and he chuckled out loud. He laughed till he wheezed and his eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who stood there embarrassed, perplexed, and dismayed. She looked at the cheese hat and then looked away. I love it, Fred hooted. Oh, truly I do. But Rosie Revere knew that could not be true. She stuck the cheese hat on the back of her shelf, and after that day kept her dreams to herself. And that's how it went until one autumn day, her oldest relation showed up for a stay. Her great-great-aunt Rose was a true dynamo, who'd worked building airplanes a long time ago. She told Rosie tales of the things she had done, and goals she had checked off her list one by one. She gave a sad smile as she looked to the sky. The only thrill left on my list is to fly. But time never lingers as long as it seems. I'll chalk that one up to an old lady's dreams. That night, as Rosie lay wide-eyed in bed, a daring idea crept into her head. Could she build a gizmo to help her aunt fly? She looked at the cheese hat and said, No, not I. But questions are tricky, and some hold on tight, and this one kept Rosie awake through the night. So when dawn approached and red streaks lit the sky, young Rosie knew just how to make her aunt fly. She worked and she worked till the day was half gone, then hauled her cheese copter out onto the lawn to give her invention a test, just to see the ridiculous flop it might turn out to be. Strapped into the cockpit, she flipped on the switch. The Helio cheese copter sputtered and twitched. It floated a moment and whirled round and round, then froze for a heartbeat and crashed to the ground. Then Rosie heard laughter and turned round to see the old woman laughing and slapping her knee. She laughed till she wheezed and her eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who thought, "Oh no, never, not ever again, will I try to build something to sputter or spin, or build with a lever, a switch, or a gear, and never will I be a great engineer." She turned round to leave, but then Great-Great-Aunt Rose grabbed hold of young Rosie and pulled her in close, and hugged her and kissed her and started to cry. "You did it! Hooray! It's the perfect first try! This great flop is over. It's time for the next." Young Rosie was baffled, embarrassed, perplexed. "I failed," said dear Rosie. "It's just made of trash. Didn't you see it? The cheese copter crashed." "Yes," said her great aunt. "It crashed, that is true. But first it did just what it needed to do. Before it crashed, Rosie, before that, it flew." "Your brilliant first flop was a raging success. Come on, let's get busy and on to the next." She handed a notebook to Rosie Revere, who smiled at her aunt as it all became clear. Life might have its failures, but this was not it. The only true failure can come if you quit. They worked till the sun sneaked away to its bed. Aunt Rose tied her headscarf around Rosie's head and sent her to sleep with a smile ear to ear, to dream the bold dreams of a great engineer. At Blue River Creek, all the kids in grade 2 build gizmos and gadgets and doohickeys too. With each perfect failure, they all stand and cheer, but none quite as proudly as Rosie Revere.